are. You know the music. It's Philip Malloy, and welcome to the programme, lad. You were at two movies back to back.
Yeah, my eyes are hanging out.
What two movies?
I was up at Cineworld from 1 o'clock till 5:30. The remake of Conan the Barbarian, and a new movie which I think a lot of people would be looking forward to, called One Day, which is based on a very popular book by David Nichols, the British writer David Nichols.
Well, that's interesting now, because I had suggested, knowing you were coming in, I'd suggested on Twitter that I might buy the book.
Yes.
And I got a lot of people telling me I shouldn't bother reading it.
Why?
They said it wasn't great.
Well, everybody, if you actually talk to your staff, I've been talking to two researchers and the producer, and they're mad about it.
All right. Do you want to know what I'm watching these days?
No. Are we going to talk about these two movies first of all?
No, we'll give you plenty of time later on.
Okay, go on.
The lovely Ingrid has got me. I'm watching concurrently, despite you spoiling the plot. I am watching The American Killing and The Danish Killing.
Well, I presume the Danish one is better.
Oh!
Yeah.
And we're only on episode 3 tonight. Like, I'm taping, I'm a bit behind Ingrid. She's watching it live. Yeah. And I'm watching it post.
Yeah.
It is magnificent. It is.
It's longer as well. I mean, it's about 20 episodes, isn't it?
20 episodes,
And the American one is 13, I think.
It's on BBC 4.
Okay, and they're re-showing it. Now, this is not the second series. This is the first one, is it?
This is the first series.
Yeah.
Because there was a second series.
No, they're doing a second series.
The Danes.
Yeah, the Danes are, yeah.
All right.
Which I think BBC 4 has undertaken to show as well.
Because I also watched Wallander, the Swedish version or whatever, and that's better as well.
Yeah, I know, and you keep saying that, but God, I thought he was so morose. I thought the Kenneth Branagh character was so morose. It was very hard to connect with him.
That's
did you not
true.
think that?
Yes, I did. There wasn't a lot of empathy for him.
No. I really liked, although he was weird, David Warner played his father in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's a great actor.
Do you not think David Warner is a ringer for Tom McGurk?
No, he is. Yeah. McGurk has one or two more wrinkles, I think, but he looks like him. He's tall, he's skinny, and he's the same colouring, isn't he?
He has, very much so. Now, on the movie front, I saw an old movie, and I haven't seen it for a long time. Kirk Douglas on a horse, Lonely Are the Brave.
Oh, God, do I love that.
Oh, it's magnificent.
I bought it, was it a year ago, or maybe it's a little longer than a year ago, and there's an introduction to it on the DVD by Steven Spielberg, and Spielberg is a very sort of effusive speaker anyway, but he's incredibly articulate about this movie. He breaks it down. It's directed by a guy called David Miller, who did very little else, but Walter Matthau is in it as the sheriff. He's very good as the sheriff, and Michael Douglas is also on the DVD, and both him and Spielberg are very, very good in talking about the movie and what it meant to him, and Michael talks as well about where it came in both his life and in his father's career, and it's very good.
All right, yeah. And I remember the ending, but I didn't actually remember how clever the ending was.
Yeah.
And I must say, I really
Who's the woman in it? Gina Rowland.
Was married to John Cassavetes.
That's her, yeah. And she's gorgeous in it, isn't she?
Yeah. No, that's very good. Jimmy Sangster, who wrote the Hammer horror versions, died yesterday at 83.
Oh, hell, I missed that.
He wrote Dracula, Frankenstein and the Mummy.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there are things about those movies, the Dracula movies, well, starting off with Frankenstein with Peter Cushing, then Dracula, and a series of movies that they made in the late 50s and into the 60s at Hammer. They were made on very low budgets, on very, very tight locations, but people like Jimmy Sangster, I think they rendered them with a certain amount of sort of intellectual acumen. I think they filled them out very, very well, and I'm bringing those kind of, especially the Dracula one, to a late 50s audience, an early 60s audience, and making it relevant. I think it was a fair achievement, you know.
All right. Eddie Anoffley said, the book reviewer of the Irish Times said it was no good. Says, One Day, says Eddie Anoffley.
Arminta Wallace, she has a big piece this morning on it.
And is Game of Thrones going to have another series? Andy wants to know.
Actually, we've been discussing it on the Facebook site, the Right Hook Movie Club Facebook site. Game of Thrones, the second series started to shoot in Belfast on the 25th of July, so they're shooting it at the moment.
All All right, okay, and Rosie disagrees with you and me. She thinks Kenneth Branagh was brilliant as Wallander.
A lot of people do, by the way. I think he was nominated for BAFTA Awards, and a lot of people seem to like him in it, but I just thought he was relentlessly, almost one-note morose. He had this thing about him, you know.
All right, take a breath. Ask George to explain what the word morose means. You know, we're not all thesaurus heads. Well, I can explain it perfectly. You know the way Philip Malloy usually is on a Wednesday when I mention Blue Bloods. That's morose.
We're not all thesaurus heads. We're just
That's morose. Morose, Philip Malloy, I think you're a perfect example of morose.
Yes.
Now, Ray and Letterkenny, you might pop in and see us on Friday when we're doing the outside broadcast at St. Eunan's GAA Club. St. Eunan's GAA Club. He was at Rise of the Planet of the Apes at Liffey Valley last night. He thought it was fab.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Is it?
Okay, some of the themes...
Is it better than the previous one?
No, it is. Well, why wouldn't it be? I mean, okay, the previous one was Tim Burton's remake, which was a bit of a disaster, a big disappointment. Now, this is a prequel. And I think it depends very much on the use of both the CGI effects and performance capture in it. And I think they're very, very well, very intelligently used, very well integrated into the story.
So they don't have humans in ape costumes then?
No. As you know, in the original Charlton Heston version, what they did was they used humans in ape costumes. They used a special kind of makeup, and there was a lot of debate at the time about whether it would work or not. A lot of people, including Heston, thought it wouldn't work, but it did work. And now we've come sort of right up to date, and we're using a new state of the art sort of system to render the
because they used humans in Tarzan, you know, the one with that actor who didn't make many movies. Remind me here, what was that Tarzan one where he found his father in a museum stuffed in a cage or something? Do you remember that one? And he was in the Albert Memorial. The ape escaped to the Albert Memorial and all that.
What the hell's that?
Tarzan. But
you think about Christopher.
Christopher.
Yeah.
Christopher.
Yeah.
Well, they use men in ape costumes in that.
Yeah.
Because I saw the actor on a chat show and he did all the grunting and the moving.
He was... Some people would say he was pretty close to it anyway.
Not Christopher.
Christophe Lambert, that's what it is. Yeah.
Now, 2 movies today.
Yeah, well, just before we go, let's go into that. Let's talk about the special showing that we have, okay?
Oh, please do.
So it's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Actually, I've just seen the trailer for it up in Cineworld, and it looks magnificent. It's the new star-studded film version of the classic John le Carré Cold War novel, which you'll know well, and it opens next month, and we'll be co-hosting a special preview at Cineworld in Dublin on the 15th of September. Screening begins at 7 p.m. and there'll be a reception sponsored by Element Pictures in the bar at Cineworld from 6:15. Now, we have 75 double tickets. That's 150 tickets for our listeners to give away. So if you're interested, email us at therighthookmovies@newstalk.ie. Now, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is already earmarked as one of the major releases of the year. Has an unbeatable ensemble cast, George. Gary Oldman stars as George Smiley. That was the part played by Alec Guinness in the TV version, and he's a veteran espionage agent who's forced out of retirement when MI6 finds that it's been infiltrated. The circus, as they call it, has been infiltrated by a Russian spy. Now, also on the cast are this year's Best Actor Oscar winner Colin Firth, Tom Hardy, who everybody is raving about, John Hurt, Mark Strong, one of my favourite actors, Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Sherlock on TV in the Sherlock series, Toby Jones, a little actor, Kieran Hines, Irish actor, and Stephen Graham, who you'll remember as Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire. He's very, very good. He's getting loads of work at the moment. It's directed by the Swedish filmmaker Thomas Alfredson, who made the widely admired vampire picture Let the Right One In 2008. Okay, that's the special showing of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy on the 15th of September at Cineworld. So if you're interested, get your application for a ticket right in.
Okay, and apply to the Right Hook Movies and Newstalk.ie. Listen, what was the name of the guy who did The Guard. We had in the show recently.
Yeah. Actually, I just got a note from him this morning.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's Andrew Lowe, right? And he was just thanking us, and he points out, by the way, that up to last night, The Guard had taken 3.8 million on the island of Ireland. And he says that if they get a fair wind behind them over the next couple of weeks, he expects that they'll overtake The Wind That Shakes the Barley, which took 4.1 million on, that's north and south. And he's also saying, by the way, he's going to register to become a member of our movie club. So if he does become a member and he wants to contribute from time to time, I'm sure some of our other members would be delighted for him.
Listen, will you put in a good word? I've written a treatment for a movie.
What?
Well, will you put in a word for him to meet me, and I'll show him my treatment?
All right, we'll talk to him. Are you serious?
Yeah, I've written a treatment for a movie.
All right. Okay.
All right. Did I watch The
Guard, by the way, with Brendan Gleeson, is still widely available. It's all over the country. I think they put out about 56. They showed it. They launched it 5 or 6 weeks ago on about 56 screens, and it's still on most of those screens.
All right.
So there's plenty of opportunity to see it.
Conan the Barbarian.
Okay, Conan the Barbarian. It's a remake of the 1982 Arnold Schwarzenegger fantasy film with Jason Momoa from Game of Thrones as the Iberian warrior out to avenge the death of his father and prevent a psychotic warlord who's played by the excellent Stephen Lang from reviving his dead wife. The wife was a witch and making him a god. Now that's basically what it's about. And I have to say, I think it's smothered, absolutely smothered in CGI effects and bloody monotonous action sequences. People are disemboweled, they're beheaded, their arms are ripped off. It's very, very violent. And Momoa, I have to say, he makes Arnold Schwarzenegger feel like a paragon of personality and wit. I think the best thing about it is Rose McGowan. She plays the psychotic daughter of the Stephen Lang character. I have to say, I just, okay, as I said, I saw it back to back this afternoon with One Day, which is a completely different film, and I just left the cinema wondering why anybody bothered remaking it.
All right, One Day, is it any good?
Well, just to say, first of all, it's, as I say, it's an adaptation of the book, Peter Nichols' book, and it's about a couple who spend a drunken night together after their graduation at Edinburgh University on July the 15th, 1988. And then they agree to go their separate ways and remain friends. And what happens then is the story kind of checks in with them on July the 15th every year for a period, I think, of about 23 years. Now, she's Emma. She's played by Anne Hathaway, this kind of Yorkshire lefty, and she's taken a fairly dull teaching job at a comprehensive school in Wolverhampton, while Dexter, he comes from a better off background. He's played by Jim Sturgis, and he's kind of rocketed to fame on a kind of superficially hip late night television show. Now, I don't know how, if I say any more about the plot, the producer will have triplets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't mind the producer.
I don't know how different the book is, and or if there's more to it. But I thought this was fairly predictable. It's basically about her waiting for him to grow up, and her waiting for him to basically discover what love is. The British media they've questioned the casting of Hathaway in the main part, in the same way as they questioned the casting of Renée Zellweger, you may recall, as Bridget Jones. But I thought I liked her in it, and I thought she was. Did you
like the movie?
I thought she was. Listen, and I thought she was quite effective in mining the kind of droll humour in the part.
Okay.
As far as the two parts are concerned, his is more substantial, even though the character is more superficial. But he has a journey to make. He has more of a journey to make, so he can get more out of it. But I liked her. I thought the movie, as I say, was predictable.
All right, okay. Well, the worst thing I think you can say about a movie is predictable.
I see, all right.
No, but isn't it so?
Also in it, by the way, is the American actress Patricia Clarkson, lovely character actress, Ken Stott, Romulo Gary, and Rafe Spall. So it has a good supporting cast.
You have another movie you saw. When did you see that one?
Well, I saw it that before I left, actually, on holidays. The Skin I Live In. Spanish director Pedro Almodovar. He's reunited reuniting with Antonio Banderas for the first time since 1990. Story of a plastic surgeon who's obsessed with the idea of creating the perfect skin, and his guinea pig is a young woman who he keeps locked up in his home, and he never seems to be sure what to do with her, whether to operate on her, torment her, or rape her. Now, there's a hell of a lot more to it. There's lots of twists and turns in it, but it deals with several of Almodovar's regular themes like sexual identity and desire, but it's never committed enough as a horror movie, and essentially that's what it is. It's never committed enough as the horror movie that it intends to be.
All right. What's this Argo thing you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a movie that started to shoot this week, and it's a fact-based thriller. Began shooting in Los Angeles and Turkey this week, and it's directed again by Ben Affleck. He also stars as a character called Tony Menendez. He's a CIA infiltration expert who created, this is what really happened, he created a fake Hollywood production to free 6 Americans who were hiding out in the Canadian ambassador's residence during the Iran hostage crisis in the late 70s. I think the crisis went on for something like 444 days. So it went on from 79 to 81. And the hostages pretended to be members of a film crew, which he kind of set up in order to get out. The script is based on a lengthy article that appeared in a magazine called Wired, and the heavyweight cast includes Bryan Cranston, who's one of the stars at the moment. He's in the TV series Breaking Bad. John Goodman, Alan Arkin, and Titus Welliver, who you may remember from The Good Wife. You know, the guy who played the district attorney in the first series? That's Titus Welliver. I really liked him. He was in Deadwood.
Interesting you mentioned Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
He's got to be very old by now.
No, he's in his 70s. Yeah.
Oh, is he?
He's in his 70s, yeah. And Titus Welliver, by the way, has become a kind of signature actor in Ben Affleck's movies. He was also in Gone Baby Gone and The Town. So I'm quite looking forward to that, I have to say.
You got an email from somebody?
Yeah, now this is a bit long, so we'll try and just sum it up fairly quickly. Dermot Cronin, he wants to know about the West Memphis tree and their association with Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson. Well, just to explain first of all, the West Memphis tree are 3 young men from Arkansas who were, West Memphis in Arkansas, who were convicted of murdering 3 8-year-old children in 1994. One of the 3 was sentenced to death, and the other were given life imprisonment. Now, immediately after their conviction, a campaign was launched to question the lack of solid evidence against them. A campaign that was backed by several Hollywood stars, including Johnny Depp, and members, say, of the Dixie Chicks and pop stars and so on. And anyway, last week they were allowed out. The 3 guys were allowed out of prison on a plea bargain, which allows them to go free, but technically still makes them guilty in the eyes of the law. Now, what's happened, to bring Peter Jackson into it, for the last several years, Peter Jackson and his wife Fran, they've revealed that they've been financing an investigation into the conviction of the West Memphis tree. This is really unusual, and they've said that this investigation and their financing of it will continue. Jackson said they would be engaged in what he called evidence testing and further investigation, and would hopefully lead to the unmasking of the actual killer.
Wow, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah. Joe Murphy thinks Danish Killing is far superior. However, he thinks the mother in the US version is brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean,
Forbes, what's her name? Michelle Forbes.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I thought she was great. I heard you mention Patricia Clarkson, the listener says. Yeah. How did you rate her in the movie Legendary?
Yeah, she's very good in that. What she tends to do is she goes from small character parts to much bigger parts, especially in small budgeted independent movies. She tends to get bigger parts. She's been in a couple of Woody Allen films as well, but she's a superb actress, and the film industry seems to love her. She works non-stop. She has about 5 or 6 projects in the offing. In this, by the way, people have been questioning Anne Hathaway's accent, the Yorkshire accent, and I think she does very well because she doesn't overemphasize it. But Patricia Clarkson has a London accent, a kind of home counties accent, and it works very well too.
All right. Any release on the release date of Agent Emery? Paul and Claire asked, this is a Spielberg movie, is it?
Agent Emery, a Spielberg movie.
Yeah. Orange Emery, sorry.
No. The next Spielberg movie is he has Tintin coming out, and then he has War Horse, and then he's going on to Lincoln.
Okay. Now, Tom Hardy, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Any word about his film Warrior? Anthony and Sligo?
Yeah, Warrior will be out before the end of the year, and then we'll hear him. Nick Nolte plays, I think, is his father who trains him as a fighter in Warrior, and the two of them together should be absolutely magical. And then he goes on to play that Prohibition era one we've talked about before, the wettest county in the world, and then he's currently doing The Dark Knight. And by the way, he's in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, as I said as well.
I'm glad you mentioned Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, because I'm with this listener, I must say.
Okay.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was a series. How can you make a remake? This would be blasphemous.
Oh God! That question crossed my mind. I mean, that's nonsense. That is nonsense.
Why?
Because you can do anything with it. It started out as a novel. You can do anything with it. You can bring it down, reduce it to maybe a 2-hour film, and deal with it in a cinematic way. It has all kinds of possibilities. For God's sake!
Now, you see,
that's a failure of imagination.
This is Philip.
Your imagination.
This is Philip being morose now. If you want to know
there's nothing morose about that.
Now, Alan says the magic of the original Conan the Barbarian was it cut back on the fantasy, tried to give it a historical reference, and it had a brilliant soundtrack.
Well, yeah, it had a brilliant soundtrack, and by the way, one of the things about it as well that was great was James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones as the villain, Tulsa Doom, I think his name was in it, and he was just wonderful.
Do you know what his first, real movie that brought him to fame was? James Earl Jones.
The Great White Hope, was it?
Correct. Well done, Philip. That was a hard question.
Well, we'll just stop. I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Boxing movie.
Yeah, boxing.
He was Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson. Yeah.
Now, I do want to say that Una, your pal Una, watched the hour last night. It ended. I'm an episode and a half behind Una.
What is she saying? What's she saying about it?
She said it was great story and acting. Disagree.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I kind of got a bit fed up with it, I have to say.
I got fed up with it, but I'm going to watch it too. Your man from The Wire.
By the way, Romulo Gary, who plays the producer in it, she's in one day. She has a supporting part in one day.
All right. Yeah. I think your man from The Wire is hopelessly underused.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know about Shaggy Horgan. Philip knows nothing about Shaggy Horgan. That's a rugby question.
Yeah, could I just mention at the end, I looked last night at the reissued version, the Blu-ray version of Kind Hearts and Cornets, which a classic Ealing black comedy from 1945, and it looks magnificent. Stars the incomparable Dennis Price.
You can't go on because
Dennis Price and Alec Guinness. Remember, in the 8 parts in it, it's absolutely wonderful, and I'd highly recommend it.
Well, you know, Sandra was going to have triplets if he had told the story of the one day. Now we're over time, and she's killing me. We'll be back in a minute with Philip.
Listen to Newstalk Live anytime.